it looks like he's got atrophy in his arms.
Yeah,
neck.
his neck. And his neck's 23 inches.
His neck looks enormous.
Yeah.
But it's just when I see a guy with that I know has neck problems, and see his arms look smaller. One of the things that happens to guys, like it happened to Boss Rutan, he got his discs fused in his neck. His arm atrophied, like he wasn't getting the nerve signals to his muscles, so his right arm, he calls it baby arm.
Yeah.
It's like smaller. It's very weak. Like I don't know how much it's recovered, but at one point in time, like he couldn't even hold out a jug of milk.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. And the neck is. There's so many of those nerves that you get pinched or squeezed.
Yeah, I mean, what does Kurt Angle do?
Down, baby. Good big third down of you.
I'm guessing a lot of bridges.
Can't run from me, motherfucker.
I mean, his neck's always just.
Yeah, look at that neck.
He could go, man. I really enjoyed.
That neck is preposterous.
I really enjoyed working with Kurt.
That's an extra waist.
It's a waist.
It's like his waist, right?
Yeah.
The muscles in that thing. But I mean, obviously, a lot of that is probably to compensate the fact that he's got a stamped neck.
He could go. What an athlete. And Brock, too. Both of them.
I mean, Angle in his prime as a wrestler was a fucking savage.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah, I mean, as an amateur wrestler in the Olympics, he was a phenomenal talent.
Yeah, he was. And then he transitioned so well.
Yeah,
that's the deal. He transitioned so well into pro wrestling.
And how did Steve Austin fuck up his neck?
Pile driver, not a pile driver like I give. There's another kind where you grab somebody and you put their head like you put your head in their crotch. There it is, right there.
Oh my God!
See, look at his head.
Where his head's gonna land. Oh my God!
All the way to those.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
Just seeing that makes me shiver. Just seeing that image. Woo!
You know, for the sake of entertainment, man.
Crazy way to make a living.
It is a crazy way to make a living.
Now, take into account what you were talking about before when you were doing that 270 nights a year.
Yeah.
That is
year round. I mean, there's no off season. There's no. I mean, it just goes. It's episodic TV now, especially. We do live TV every Monday, every Friday. The schedule, I don't think, is quite as bad now. There were days where I would be out 45 days in a row. And just, you didn't think anything about it. You just thought it was. Actually, when you get into that, you don't want to come back. You don't want to come off the road. Yeah, just fucks everything up. You know, it's just like more than like 4 or 5 days. Like, especially when you back in the early night, you get hurt, and you're home, 6, 7, 8 weeks. You're a raving lunatic because your body is just conditioned to go and just be out there and doing it. It's tough on relationships. It's tough. It's just, and you always got that worry. You're always worried about that next guy coming up too, right? Like, I'm healing up here, and this guy's coming up, and
don't want anybody taking your spot.
You don't want anybody taking your spot. Everything's, I mean, although it's not competition in the sense of MMA competition, it's competition.
Yeah.
You're competing to be the top guy, or you're competing for your place on the card. So it is, in that sense, of competition and important.
Tony, it's gotta be wild seeing him when you were 6 years old for the first time.
Yeah.
And then hearing these stories now about how all that came to be.
It's wild. Did you take a lot of, did you have a lot to do with the creative side of things? Because there was an urn that his manager would hold that would charge him, right? It would get, it would summon like superpowers.
Somebody who's not a fan, he's listening to this shit
I know.
Like, what have you been smoking?
He would put his opponents after he beats them. He would put them in body bags. At one point, he was building a casket for an opponent for a casket match. I think I told you at the Chappelle show when I met you, I got in trouble when I was a kid because, I was like learning about death from this man. Like, I didn't know you went into a casket after you were dead. You're 7 years old. You don't know that yet. Like, you don't know what a box is. You're like, oh my God, you put your body in a box? I got in trouble because I nailed my mom's piano bench shut because of the promos that you had for the Kamala casket match, he was nailing a coffin shut, and it was so scary to see as a kid. So I nailed my mom's piano bench, like you know how they open up? I pretended like it was a coffin, and I destroyed it. I got in so much trouble. I once took one of those suit bags that zip up, and like me and my buddies, we would have these fake wrestling matches as kids, and then we would
body bag matches.
We would zip up the suit thing and pretend like we're dead afterwards. Like it was like all these things were a part of my childhood. Like was that you? Some of you, some of Vince? Like
yeah. So Vince had the original likeness, and then you know after a couple of years, I mean it had kind of taken over. Like I lived that. Like everywhere I went, you know, I was always dressed in black. You know, what people saw on TV, they pretty much saw in real life.
So if you went out to dinner...
I would dress quite like that, but I would be in all black. I didn't say much to people.
Did you have to stay in character?
I always stayed in character. I always felt like I always felt like that I needed to be what they saw on TV, because if they saw me differently, like if they saw this,
right,
then they see that on TV. It's like, oh, fuck. It's just acting. It's just this. It's that. So I tried to make that guy real, and I did for a long time. Like for years, I didn't do interviews. I didn't do personal appearances. You got very little of me other than what you saw on TV, and that's what kept people captivated. Like, I mean, everybody's like, fuck, I know he's not dead, but yeah, but. He's fucked up. He's something's wrong. There's something.
Right.
And it captivates, you know, to stay, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but to stay relevant for 30 years in this industry where there's so much exposure. I mean, you have to, I felt like that's the extreme that I had to go to, you know, to make that guy continue to mean something.
Does it feel almost weird for you to be doing like a podcast?
Crazy.
Like this?
Absolutely crazy. So it started, you know, I did a docuseries kind of chronicling the last few years of my career. It was actually me trying to come to grips with calling it a day, really. It's called...
Come on, just get this way into the microphone.
Yeah. So we ended up calling it had nothing to do with the Jordan deal, but it was called The Last Ride, which is one of my finishing moves. So it kind of chronicled like the last few years of my career, and me kind of chasing the dragon for that one match that I could hang my hat on and say, that's it, you know. And as you get older and the injuries and all that, I figure that in, but I still see in my head what I used to could do, and that's what I was striving. Yeah, I mean, you've seen it in the fight game all the time. Guys are looking for that, you know. They can't come to grips with the fact that their skills have diminished, and there's a changing of the guard.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same with what I was doing. I was looking for that one match that I could say, motherfuckers, I still got it, and now I'm out.
Was there a conversation about this with Vince where you were trying to figure out when to close the door?
Yeah, there was lots. There were lots of those conversations, and there were people that I talked to along the way, you know, through my career. I was like, look, if I get to a point where my skills have diminished and I can't recognize it, I want you to tell me, or at least bring the conversation up, you know. And it got to the point where nobody wants to have that conversation, you know. Nobody wants to have that, like, hey, dude, your day? Yeah, it's a real problem. I put a big burden on people, and you know, they just couldn't do it. And now Vince, who I have an unbelievable relationship with, but also that's a huge intellectual property for Vince. 30 years, you know. So he did, you know. I could go out for another few years and, you know, I could knock somebody on their ass, or I could choke slam somebody, but I can't do it personally.
Right.
I can't, because I know there's so many guys that are coming up that are trying to get that spot, and you know, I can't go out there and say, okay, I got all this equity built up from all these years. I'm just gonna, you know, I'm just gonna live off of that.
I remember when I was a kid in Boston, they had it was a local wrestling promotion, but Killer Kowalski. Killer Kowalski was on, and I don't know how old he was at the time, but he had to be way up in the years. I mean, he looked like he was in his 50s.
Yeah.
And, I remember thinking, like, even as a kid, like, how long can a guy do this?
Yeah. And it varies.
Who's the longest? Are you the longest reigning guy?
No, I think there's guys that are like Flair lasted.
At his level, yeah, he's the longest by like a lot. He's probably going to be humble about this right now. But even then, the Kowalskis and all that, the styles were different, right? It was more like arm drags and like little tosses.
With the claw.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's throwing people off of 16-foot cells and getting thrown off of Titantrons like ramps and all this crazy physical stuff. It's a whole different game. And he went 10, 15 years, probably longer than most of his peers.
Well, the fact that I stayed 30 years with one company, I think that's the one really big thing is once I started with Vince, I stayed with Vince. Where a lot of guys, they would jump from one promotion to the other, and I stayed. Once I got there, I was there, and it's been a hell of a ride.
30 years is a crazy ride. So what was your last match?
My last match was in April. April
2020.
Yeah, right here.
It is. It's a nice bike.
Yeah, that's a West Coast chopper right there. That's the bike actually belonged to Garth Brooks' security guy. But this was we got lucky because COVID had already shut everything down. So everybody else, this is WrestleMania, so everybody else is doing their matches in an empty warehouse, and we got to go off and do this kind of themed match. They turned this whole area into like a cemetery, and got to do a lot of theatrical stuff.
So that must have felt like I can hang my hat on this one.
Yeah, we started filming that at about 8 o'clock at night, and we wrapped at about 5 in the morning. And like at the end of it, I was like, I can hardly stand up. Everything was just locked up, and I was, because I went into it, and, I started training for Mania, and obviously I thought I was going to be in a stadium, in a ring, and so I had really got a good head start on my training, and my weight was coming down, everything was good, and then fucking COVID hit, and then it was just like the gyms shut down, and then then I got to I had to get to Florida just to make sure that I was in Florida.
Right.
Yeah, because you just never knew like when they were going to shut all the airlines down. So the training, my training kind of went to shit, and but I was really happy with how this turned out, and I knew at the end of it, physically, that your day's done, man. And as much as I want to do it here, and I want to do it here, it's just the body it can't deliver.
So what do you do now? I mean, that's a long career. I mean,
yeah, it is, and I'm trying to figure that part out because I've dedicated my whole life to this business, and there'll be times I help out and maybe mentor some guys, but I got to find out what I'm passionate about. And still, earn a living. Like right now, my goal is like to be the best outdoorsman I can be at this point.
Is that what you're into now?
I've always loved hunting and fishing and doing all that. I just never had time.
Have you thought about doing a television show? You do that?
I've thought about it.
Undertaker Outdoors.
Undertaker Outdoors, right? Just I think it'd be a hoot. It's just kind of, I've thought about it, and I don't want it to be a job. I enjoy it too much, and I'd hate to lose. But the fact, like, I don't want to go hunting. I don't want to go,
Right.
So, but I'm open to whatever.
What kind of hunting do you do? What is your thing?
Well, I've always been a rifle because I've had limited time. So sit in a stand and wait for a whitetail to come stick its head out. This year, I just bought my first brand new bow. This year, I didn't get to shoot a deer.
Austin is a very good archery.
Yeah,
archery country is fantastic.
Yeah,
really good.
Yeah,
I had an issue with my bow just a few weeks before I went to Utah for an elk hunt. was something shooting low, and it turned out that the strings had been stretched and it lost some of its poundage, so everything had to be readjusted, so I had to get tightened up again and get the poundage put back on.
Yeah,
they did an amazing job.
Yeah, archery is, and I just found that out. That Austin's a real, there's a lot of archery hunters here.
Yeah, well, Texas in general has a lot of hunters and a lot of archery hunters, but that is a real good archery shop, and it's hard to find in California. I used to have to go to San Diego.
Oh, we got San Diego.
Yeah, I had to go to Performance Archery down in San Diego to find a real good archery shop anywhere near me.
The biggest issue with me was finding a bow that, would get my draw.
Oh, I could help you with that. Yeah, John Dudley's pretty close to your size. He's 6'5", I believe. 6'5", 6'6", something like
What's
that.
his draw? Mine is
32, I think.
Yeah, mine's 33, almost 33 and a half.
Oh, they make them for guys like you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you just have to get the right cams and, have someone who, like a guy like John could set it up, a guy who knows how to set up a bow. I'm sure he'd be happy to do that for you, too.
Yeah, that's what I think that's what I'm passionate about, because that's the one thing, like, it's always been that carrot dangling, like, okay, once that career is over,
right?
You're free. You're free. You're going to do this and you're going to do that. But I mean, that's not the way life works. I mean, you still need, I still need to be productive and do different things. I work with a lot of, I love working with the veterans. I work with these guys on 9-line. I do stuff with them. It's kind of, I'm just really passionate about people that have served our country.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, like if I hadn't have made it here, that's probably what I would have done. And it's like, I think about it sometimes, like I think it may be my only regret. Like, I wish I had served. Because I guess because I'm surrounded by so many of those guys now, and getting to meet guys like, Oz and Dig from Benghazi and Latrell, all those guys. It's just, man, I can sit and listen to stories, all day long from those guys.
Yeah, Latrell and I were talking about him coming on here.
He's a good dude,
He's
man.
a real good dude.
He's one of those guys that he's so laid back that you can tell, you can look at him, and you can tell, like, he's been through some shit, right?
He's been through some shit.
Yeah.
I mean, when they make a Mark-to-Mark movie about your life, you've been through some shit.
Yeah, he's just as nice as could be.
Real good dude.
I'm not, I don't get real excited about meeting celebrities or people like that. I just leave people alone for the most part. And he spoke at the church when we go to. I called the pastor up during while he was talking. I was like, look, I need to be introduced to him before I leave here tonight. And he was like, absolutely, come on back. But that's the kind of those kind of people.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just I don't think we can do enough for people that put their lives.
I couldn't agree more. They're just people like that have been through so much, and they're different kind of people. They're exceptional in a way that it's hard to describe.
It really is. You've had Coggins on, right?
Oh yeah,
He's a fucking maniac, right?
Yeah, they'll send me text messages out of the blue. Stay hard. Okay. I'm gonna go soft, but
I'm trading my ass off right now, but I enjoyed his book so good. It was so good.
Yeah, he's a fascinating person.
Yeah, he's wired a little different too.
Oh, for sure. But he's got a great. I love his story because Goggins was fat and he was lazy. And he was, eating fucking drinking milkshakes and shit, and he was way overweight and couldn't run at all, and just decided that he wanted to be in the SEALs, and decided he wanted to lose weight, and decided now's the time to do it, and just forced himself to be this fucking barbarian.
Yeah. If you can't get inspired, if you don't read his book and can't get inspired by that, he's good.
Why tell everybody go to his Instagram page?
Yeah.
Go to his, when I find a good one, I repost it on my page all the time.
Yeah, that's good shit.
He'll have some that literally will make me go up and work out. Like maybe I'm not even thinking about working out, and I watch it.
Oh, you already worked out once.
I'm going right now. Time to go to war.
Yeah.
Yelling at us. I always wonder who the guy is that gets no credit that's running alongside of him.
He's driving.
First of all, that's his wife, and she's driving.
Oh.
Yeah, and she's got the phone out the window, and she's driving. A lot of motherfuckers will tell you
Oh my God!
That's right. There we go. So give me some volume on this.
It makes me feel like a bitch every day.
Was the perfect example of that. A lot of people lost jobs, lost businesses, lost family members. A lot of folks spent a lot of time